What's up? I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for joining. I am super stoked to have this conversation. To be honest with you, I mean, Brandman, I think, as all of the artists probably on this screen, was very influential. And then I feel like your presence online and just in the music marketing game in the last 2 years has just gone up. And I think I really appreciate your content specifically because it's so impactful and you just know how to concise it down. You know how to talk.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much for joining. We're all excited to talk to you. So if it's okay with you, let's get started.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
All right.
What's up, everybody?
Yes, yes. We got some people super excited to talk to you today, so I'm excited for them to get that opportunity. Okay, so let us know a little bit about yourself and how you got here.
Yeah. So like she said, everybody, my name is Kohrey. Most people call me Kohrey. I am a music marketer and co-founder of Contraband Agency, which is a content consulting and digital marketing agency. So we primarily help artists build out things like their digital advertising funnels. So think about like paid ads, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, things like that. As well as helping them figure out their content strategy on various platforms and their influencer marketing strategy. So all the way down to like your traditional people influencers all the way to like a meme page or like a viral cat page or something like that, right? And helping them figure out how these different platforms can be utilized to push people over to the music. Um, and we pretty much work with artists all the way from the ones that just decided yesterday that they want to take their music more seriously and are looking for their very first fans, all the way up to artists that have been making music longer than I've been alive, like certain legacy acts and things, and then everybody in between it, of course. And then outside of that, I also create content on a platform called Brandman Network, which is an educational space where we pretty much teach artists how to do the exact same marketing strategies that we do. And then we're also working on teaching aspiring music marketers on how to like generate their own clients and kind of become the entity that we've become.
That's awesome. That's dope. So, speaking on content and how impactful it is, we know now that it's kind of like the necessary evil, right? And so, from your perspective, prior to 2020, how has music marketing changed with like content and all of that with it
Yes.
in the mix now?
Yeah, so it honestly hasn't changed too much, right? So the interesting thing about marketing is that the skills always apply. There's just always a new platform that comes up, right? So prior to 2020, um, TikTok was like this new thing. A lot of artists weren't taking it seriously. Even like the industry itself wasn't taking it seriously. Versus you fast forward to 2022, and it's the only thing that people kind of talk about, right? But the artists that were creating content on, let's say, like an Instagram or like a YouTube or even some of those older platforms during that time, those artists were typically the ones that were able to take advantage of TikTok when it first kind of kicked off because they at least had the core skill of content creation down pat. They just had to figure out how to work it into the language of the platform. So that tends to be the thing that changes, right? Like I always tell artists, like, which is also why we focus on what we focus on in marketing, content, influencers, and advertising, because those three things aren't going away. Like there's always going to be an advertising platform. Anytime a new platform comes up, you give it enough time, they build out an advertising platform, right? Like there's always going to be influencers, right? Like there were Facebook influencers, there were Instagram influencers, there were Twitter influencers. So there's always going to be influencers that come along with a platform. And then content is the universal language of the internet now, right? Like it's the way that you speak to people and you communicate with the people that you feel like make the most sense for your world and the world that you're trying to create. So I always go back to that. Like the technical skill set is pretty much exactly the same. It's just year over year, we end up having to learn like a new platform or maybe learn like a new group of platforms and then figure out how to translate what we already know to that specific platform and make it work on there.
Absolutely. I just saw this post and it was like really controversial and it was like TikTok is dead. Like focus on a new platforms that are arising like YouTube Shorts. Like begin to take advantage and not saying that TikTok is like worthless because obviously it still has a huge impact, but just like you said, it's always going to be a different platform,
Mhm.
but like kind of get on top of the trend early if you can.
Yeah, like it always helps to be early, right? Like first adopters are usually the people that bump their head the most, but then they have the biggest impact of their platform because they end up being the people that become a success story for that platform that then convinces more people to get on the platforms and the platform gets a little bit harder, right? And then that pretty much continues. Somebody else is like, oh shit, I gotta do this TikTok thing. They figure it out. TikTok is like, hey, look at this guy that did it. And then more people are like, oh, I could be like that guy. And then it keeps stacking and stacking until, you get years down the line and it's much harder to grow than it maybe would have been 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So that's always the case with any platform. If any of you were on Instagram long enough, I'm sure you can remember the days when it was easy to grow on Instagram, right? And then they took that away. I wasn't on YouTube then, but I know Sean was, my partner, was on a lot earlier. And he tell me all the time about days when like YouTube was a lot easier to work than it is now. So that just is kind of like the natural ebb and flow of social platforms, right? Like when it's not a large audience on there, people are usually the most suspicious to use it, but they have the most potential to grow. But then when there are a lot of people on it, that's when people are the most trusting of it, but now it's harder to grow on it because there are a lot more eyes on it. So just even kind of speaking on that video that you saw, the thing that I like about TikTok compared to the other social platforms is it's, in my opinion, the perfect platform to learn how to be a content creator, because it's the platform where you're allowed to like bump your head the most, right? So whether you make a amazing TikTok or you make a terrible TikTok, people are gonna forget about it in like 10 seconds, right? So they're just gonna kind of move past it. But it's also the only platform where like you could post the same idea 100 times over and nobody would care, right? Versus like an Instagram or YouTube is kind of a one and done thing. Like you post it, if it does good, great. If it doesn't, you still have to let it sit. Like you don't really get the leisure to like post things multiple times over there. So you can fail a lot faster on TikTok than you can on the other platforms, while still gaining the skills that you need to work the other platforms like a YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels. Because they're all, for the most part, trying to speak the same language and do things in the same way. So one thing you learn on one applies to the other in some type of way. TikTok to those more than the reverse. The second thing I'll say about TikTok is that the like speed at which people convert to the music is unmatched with TikTok, right? So like I have a friend of mine who was working with some artists, and that artist got a viral post on Instagram. Like some creator posted them, the post maybe got like 1.5 million views, and they didn't see like that much of an increase in like their streaming overall. Like it maybe was like a small blip, but not like what you would have expected out of a post that got like a million views. Versus that same artist had like some music curator post about him on TikTok. That post only got like maybe like 60,000 views, but like you could feel like the people kind of converting over. Like there was a much bigger impact relative to the views, and like the being able to identify they were coming from there was a lot easier. So that to me is still unmatched. Like people on TikTok are just like prepared to like hop off the platform and go listen to something if they like it, versus like users on Instagram and YouTube are not the same, right? And so that's the thing you have to always take into consideration when choosing the platform to work is user behavior, because user behavior is going to determine the impact of certain things, right? Like I said, like you could do something on TikTok and have a completely different impact than what it would have on Instagram. 1,000 view post has a much different impact on TikTok than 1,000 view post on Instagram. So that's a large part of the reason why we advocate for TikTok really heavy. But honestly, like the other platforms are still viable to grow fans and find people. It's just a lot harder than it used to be. So it's like if you're not going to do TikTok, if you're just, either anti-TikTok or you personally feel like you haven't found your way, then it becomes like, all right, well, what are you doing on the other platforms in the meantime? Like you should be trying to figure out how to get on TikTok, but like, what are you doing to compensate for the fact that you're not on there, right? Like, are you spending ad dollars? Are you kind of ramping up your content strategy on the other platforms? Like, how are you taking, covering up for the fact that you're not taking advantage of that? But I tell most artists, like, if you are strapped for money, and you do not feel like you are above a 2 or a 3 when it comes to content creation, like you need to be starting on TikTok.
Yeah, I love that. And I can attest to that for sure, because with the Creators Club platform, I feel like I've been able to kind of break into the Instagram Reel algorithm. But even if I get 25, 30,000 views, it's nowhere compared if I get 25 to 30,000 views on TikTok. Like the engagement rate, the comments, like none of it is really like transfers over. So for sure. So do you have any, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, and I'll say this too, like the thing I like about TikTok is that, so if you look at your analytics, like majority of the time, at least I will argue what 85 to 90% of your traffic is coming from the For You page. And so the thing that's interesting about that is that it doesn't really matter how well a post performs, because more than likely you got in front of a new person. So if you were to post something and it only got 500 views, chances are there was 500 new people that just learned about you for the first time. So if you did that 10 times over, that's 5,000 new people in a week that got exposed to your music or exposed to your brand, versus like Instagram and YouTube tend to be platforms that push to your audience. So if you get 500 views on Instagram, it feels like it's shitty because these were 500 people that probably already knew about you and knew you existed, right? Like I said, versus TikTok, those could be completely new people. So it's changed the dynamic on like what is a successful post and what is not a successful post. Because like to me, a successful post is, did it convince somebody to go check you out a little bit deeper than whatever the surface level of the post was? If it did that, then it was successful no matter how many views it got. And if it didn't do that, it was unsuccessful no matter how many views it got, right? So so it just like going back to like you said, like it feels different. You can kind of notice that, like especially if you're working multiple platforms at a time, you can kind of start to tell like, oh, this platform is great for this, and then this platform is much better for doing these things over here. And then it doesn't become like a competition between the different platforms. It becomes more about like where do you want to spend your energy and how can you integrate them together to make what makes sense for you work for you, you know?
Absolutely. So what are 3 common mistakes you see artists make when it comes to digital marketing and or content creation?
Yeah, 3 mistakes, so many. But I would say I think the first one is not educating themselves enough on the thing that they want to jump into, right? So maybe you hear in passing like, "Oh, my homie ran Facebook ads and he saw some success with it," or this guy ran Facebook ads and he said they suck." But it's like you don't really know enough to know if either of those are true or not, honestly. And music is one of those weird things where like something could bomb for somebody else and then be a complete success for you, right? But it all starts with kind of like educating yourself on the process of that stuff, and then at least trying it like at least like once or twice, to kind of get a feel for it. So I would say there's not enough of that. And then the second thing I would say is just kind of having the patience to stick it out. So the thing with marketing is that there are going to be a lot of things that you do that you don't feel the impact of until like 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line, right? And like a great example I always like to give is like you could run an ad today, and let's say like that ad hits like I don't know, like some kid that just like loves your music, like he's just totally infatuated with it, and like he goes out and he lives life to his music, right? He's listening to you on the way to school. He breaks up with his first girlfriend. He's listening to you in the car ride home. You know what I'm saying? Like he's out living life to your music. And then one day that kid wakes up and decides to make a TikTok to your song, and that TikTok goes viral and pops out. Like those events and things aren't things that you can make happen immediately, like from the moment they saw your ad, right? Like the person has to kind of go live life to your music and kind of experience things around you to even be compelled to do stuff like that. So that's why I say there'll be things that you will do today that you won't even truly be able to feel the impact of until 5, 6, 7, 8 months down the line. And a lot of artists are kind of coming to it and be like, okay, I did it for like a week, it didn't really work, and I'm done with it. Or like, oh, I did it for like a month and it's like it didn't really work. And it's like, well, there are major corporations who market themselves 24 hours every single day, and like because they understand the value of like long-term impact. Like you're pretty much like you have to kind of go into marketing looking at it like, how can I create some type of short-term impact for myself, right? Like you do want to see streams and numbers and things go up, but really is how can I set future me up for the best possible opportunities as possible. So like me today is going to have to suck it up so that me 6 months from now has a different level of opportunities and, and awareness built around them and hopefully audience level. So yeah, I would say the second one is just kind of like not sticking out the game plan long enough and not giving things enough time to kind of like truly build out. And then the third thing I would say is kind of like is budget, you know what I'm saying? Like kind of going into things without, I won't say a realistic budget because I don't believe in that. I think that there are ways to do things with budgets of all levels, but you have to pretty much like learn how to like manage your expectations in marketing, right? Because they're going to be, some people just get miracle moments. And like those a lot of times are the things you hear about in the music industry, right? It's like, oh, this person did this one post and it got 10 million views, and it's like, oh, that's great, but what about the other 1,000 people that did it and only got 100,000 views, only got 10,000 views, right? Like those people were still successful in a way, they just didn't have the same level of impact because of XYZ. But a lot of times it kind of comes down to like budget always controls like how much and how long you can do things in marketing, and then even to a degree like what you need to do. So if you're an artist with tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend, you have a lot more wiggle room than the artist that only has a $500 budget, right? Like the artist with a $500 budget you might need to take your 8-platform, 9-month marketing plan and knock it down to 1 platform, 3 months, because that's all you can really afford to do, right? And figure out how to maximize what you have rather than spread yourself thin across a couple of different things. And, we look at it like, especially in the world of budget, I would much rather you do a few things really well than do like a lot of things like okay to terribly, and like that tends to be what I'll see with like artists in their budget. Either they try to take a small amount and stretch it really thin, or they just don't stack up enough to do the things that they've kind of like mapped out in their head, because they a lot of times don't understand like the cost of certain things. And just like word of advice that I always tell people, like anything marketing associated is always going to be cost associated. Like there's very few things you can do in the world of marketing that don't cost money. And the things that don't cost money usually take up a chunk of your time. Like content creation is completely free, but you're spending hours generating this audience versus like you could put $100 a day into an ad and hit the same amount of people as it would take you to make 10 TikToks. Like, it's completely possible, but it's like, which one makes the most sense to you? Do you have the time to create the content? Then go do it. Do you have the budget to be able to do certain things so you don't have to do it? Great, do that. Ideally, you do both, right? And you kind of have like both of those things pushing at the same time. But yeah, I would say those are probably like the top 3 I see, is like just not having the budget to execute on certain things, or just not being smart with their budget, not having the patience to kind of like stick certain things out, and then just not like educating themselves on things that they know like where to start and like what to try to kind of start building out their foundation.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue into the next question, which is, if you have a small budget, where would you suggest you allocate it to? Where have you seen a small budget make the most impact? Is it Facebook, or is it just digital ads in general, or is it something else that can build hype around the artists?
Yeah, so when we say small, can we put a number on it? Like we're talking about like $500 or less,
Let's say
1,000,
let's say 500.
500. So the best thing I think there's to do with a $500, we'll say, yeah, we'll just keep it small. You're right. $500 budget is, yes, 100% like digital ads. Because at that stage, what I would probably tell the artists that they need to do is to more so focus on their content strategy and like really picking a platform and like just studying it and learning everything they can about it. And then what they can do with that money is use the ads to push an audience over to make sure their content does get seen. So that way it's like you're pretty much like practicing in front of an audience, pretty much, right? Like you're not shooting shots in the gym alone, you're shooting shots with 100 people in the stands watching you, what I'm saying, go through the process. So but at that phase, it's like you get to practice and work on your content. You're still gaining fans because somebody's gonna like what you're creating. Somebody's gonna say like, oh, that was cool, like I'll go check dude out. And then you're also like building up data that will help you start to figure out future things you may want to do, right? Like you may want to do an influencer campaign at some point, but you may not know what spaces to hit for an influencer campaign, but you can take your ad data and read through certain things to figure that out, or even look at the people that have been converting off the ads and go like, okay, well, 10 of these people that follow me this week from the ads kept talking to me about like skateboarding. Maybe I should like market myself using like skateboard influencers or go create some skate content or something like that, right? So ads give you the ability to have an audience for your practice phase and gives you data that you can use in the future. So 9 times out of 10, like I'll usually push smaller budget clients for like pay advertising. And then it's also a thing that becomes like, it's very easy to scale. So if you're running an ad at $5 a day and it's doing pretty well, chances are if we bumped it up to 500 a day, it will still do relatively well, right? There'll be some changes, of course, but like it will still do well for the most part. And so now with ads, you can quantify your goals. You can go like, hey, I put $50 into it, and then this thing happened. So if I wanted this amount of things to happen again, I need to put X amount of dollars into it. And so now you can plan a lot better. And so like a lot of other marketing things don't give you that ability. Like influencer campaigns, for example, like I could pay the same page to post 5 different people and all 5 will have completely different results. And it's like, and you can't really control that as a marketer. And then like, in the same breath, like I paid influencers lots of money for posts that did really well. I paid influencers lots of money for posts that didn't do well, and it just kind of becomes one of those things where like you just have to roll with the punch and kind of keep it going, right? So I like that about ads, is that like you can say, you can quantify your goals and scale up or down based on like what makes the most sense for you. So if you only got 500 this month, but then like, oh man, I don't know, tax time is coming up in 3 months and I know I'm getting a nice little refund for my job. So if I build this up around this point, I should be able to scale this with $2,000 because and like you can plan around that in a way like you wouldn't be able to do with other things. So yeah, 9 times out of 10, I would push them towards like figuring out content strategy on the platform and then running paid ads behind that on that same platform.
Awesome. And I would love to know your thoughts, because when I talk to musicians too, when they begin to invest in digital marketing, the one thing I always tell them is make sure you have a funnel of a way that you can collect their information, whether that's like a texting number that they can, give you, or like an email that they can give you. What have you seen work best in terms of like collecting that fan data?
So I really like Discord. I always call Discord like the poor man's email list,
Yeah.
because it's free. You can still collect people in the space and you can engage them a lot more. And it's a good practice for like building community, because at some point in your career you have to build community anyway. And it's like you can either figure it out when you only have 3 people that are paying attention. You can try to figure out like once you have hundreds or thousands of people paying attention. One is much harder to do, but I always go with the early route, like do it when nobody's really paying super attention to it. So I like Discord. And then I like collecting phone numbers through more of a manual funnel. So it depends on the platform, right? If it's like TikTok, I'll tell people like, hey, have them DM you on Instagram, and then give them your phone number or something. So that way you get them to convert over to Instagram. And then if they make it that far, then okay, hey, they're at least like mildly interested in me. And then if they actually DM you, they're another level of interest in you. If they actually text you or join your Discord, then they're here. They're peak interested in you, right? So that in itself becomes like a really good like makeshift funnel that is free that you can still use to test out the qualifications of people that are paying attention to you. So it's like if you're trying to like not spend money, DMs to like maybe some type of like Excel sheet or something, or Discord group. And if you do have money to spend, and like paying for something like a community or a super phone, so you have a phone number to give people, is another good step.
Got you. So, with TikTok trolls, sometimes I always go back and forth, because sometimes people hate the fact that they have to make content. And
Yeah.
people really, really are anti social media, and, music is art and blah, blah, blah. So the golden question is, nowadays, do you think that you can still have a successful music career and not really push content or make content as an emerging musician?
Yeah, if you have maybe at least like 500,000, what I'm saying, plus it's possible, and we know it's possible because we see bigger artists do it, right? But it's like those artists usually have larger spins kind of going on in the background, or like they're marketing in a way that like you're not able to market. So like The Weeknd doesn't have to hop on TikTok and make TikToks. He should, but he doesn't have to, because he's spending $250,000 a month in radio. So that's his marketing funnel, right? Or like he's doing, 6 festivals and like 3 TV appearances a month. That's his marketing funnel in a sense. So like they're still marketing and doing certain things. It just looks a different way. But if you don't have a large budget, and like I said, I would still argue if you do have a large budget, like then like content creation just isn't. It's the language now, right? It's like you wouldn't go to a new country and then complain about having to speak to people in the language that they understand. Like that would be weird if you did that. And that's just the way the world is. Like people like to receive their information through content. We like to learn about things and hear about things and keep up with things through content. And by you not doing that, you're more so fighting human behavior than you are fighting back against like the platforms and like artistic integrity and things. That's at least that's how I look at it. So I look at it like there's always a way for everyone to communicate their message through a platform. The platform is just a medium, it's like it's the way you get things out. But in all art, since the dawn of time, has needed a medium to kind of get their messaging out to people. It just looks different. If this was 1995 or something, like all of you would be like standing outside the corner of a store, like passing out CDs out the trunk of your car. And that would be the way that you maybe got in front of people back then. And I don't know about y'all, you know what I'm saying, but I would much rather make a TikTok video than stand outside, you know what I'm saying, 5-6 hours a day, trying to get people to check my stuff out, and go against like what they are being trained to look at and view things outside of just like the world you kind of live in, because like every industry takes advantage of content. So it's not like just music is doing it, right? So it's like if I, as a typical consumer, I'm watching comedians and I'm watching like nature people and I'm watching people I learn from and business people and all these other people who are feeding me information this way. And then I come to you and it's like you are the outlier that's not doing it the way that all these other people are doing it, then it's like I look at you weird. You know, I don't view it as like this heroic act. It's kind of like, hey, like, well, I'm just gonna go pay attention to the people that do want to play the game and do want to feed me things the way I'm kind of willing to be fed. So it's like you got to meet the people halfway, you know. And there's kind of like no getting around that. Like the more you try to go against the grain, well, not even against the grain, but the more I always go about user behavior. Like the more you try to go against user behavior, the more you will lose. Because at the end of the day, you are trying to convince people to like you. So it means you have to be able to learn and understand these people and how they like to consume information. So you can work it, you can manipulate it, you know.
Yeah, no, that's an incredible perspective. I've never thought about it like that, but it really, at the end of the day, human behavior is just shifting.
Yeah, exactly. Like we view things in a different way. Like I said, like 3 years ago, we all like to find our music, you know, maybe on like Instagram or like a playlist or something. Or actually playlists are a great way. Like 5 years ago, like you weren't finding new music because of a playlist, you know, but today is nothing to go click into a playlist and find 5, 6 new songs that you like. So it's like with today, would you go like, hey, I don't want to be in a playlist? It's like, no, you would take the attention that kind of came from it, right? So it's the same thing as like content, and these different platforms are just a medium, you know, and it's like you can figure out a way to use it to spread your message and do things your way. It's just like, will you take the time to learn the technical portion of the platform so you can then learn how to add your own artistic flair on top of it?
Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit with, like just music marketing, doing digital ads. But my question is for artists, it kind of seems like they have tunnel vision, right? They make the song, they push the album, they do the ads, and then it seems like a lot of people get into the habit of taking their foot off the gas.
Mm.
What kind of aftercare propels that investment of marketing even more?
Yeah, so really just kind of having like long-term vision with it. So I look at it like if a song is performing well, like you're seeing what you want to see from it, whatever that looks like to you, right? If you're seeing what you want to see from it, then you need to go into the mindset of like, I'm going to be promoting this thing for at least the next 3 to 6 months. Because like I said, there are going to be things that you do today that won't even have an impact on you until around that time. There's people that haven't heard it yet, right? You could blow up today and get a million streams on your song, but there's more than a million people in the world, you know. So there's still people out there who haven't heard of you and who could still be brought into your funnel, and those people are going to be easier to convert because then you have all this social proofing built up on top of it, right? So yeah, just kind of like getting into the habit of knowing like, hey, like this thing is working, people like it. Now I need to keep pushing it like at least 3 to 6 months, but to me, for as long as it works. Like we've had campaigns where we pushed the same song for like 8, 9 months in a row, or like I think the longest we've ever pushed the same songs, like maybe like yeah, maybe about the same, maybe like 10 months. I think is the longest we've ever kind of convinced an artist to stick to the same song and keep pushing it. But it's like if it works, it works. You know, it's like why jump ship unless you are convinced through some other means that there's a song that could work better. And if that song does work better, then great. You do jump ship. You go like, okay, this was fun, but now I'm gonna take what I learned here and go apply it over here. And then if it doesn't work, then you still have this safety net to fall back on that you from this thing that you have seen working and seen people converting. So I think that's what it is. Like artists, you know, get what is it called? Like the shiny object syndrome, where it's like, oh, I made this new thing that I'm in love with. Like I now want to push this thing. And it's like, well, you were in love with that thing like 3 months ago. Like, well, no, and that thing is still working. Like, can we keep doing that? You know, or can we find some type of like a happy medium?
Right. Think about it the perspective of like a physical product. Like, is
Yeah,
Coca-Cola gonna stop selling Coke original flavor, even though
yeah,
they're
because
coming out with new flavors all the time? Because what works works.
exactly. It's like I said, like they can make cherry mint Coke and it could be a hit tomorrow, and it can be regular Cokes on the shelves of everywhere.
So, what are your top 3 tips for emerging musicians?
Top 3 tips. That's a good question. Like just general tips, like outside of marketing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just general tips.
Um. Well, one, educate yourself on all aspects of the industry, not just the musical side of it, not even just the business side of it. Really, like the business side gets pushed. I think every artist kind of understands the need to study the business, but like even things that like are adjacent to music business. So like tech is really big, right? Because they're creating the platforms that kind of like build things for you guys, or yeah, really that. Like tech tends to be the world that controls stuff outside of music, right? So kind of like learning about like how all those different industries integrate and just like what other people are doing. And I would even add on there, like, study other artists, small, big artists that you think are doing certain things well. Like, you more than likely can always learn something from another artist, right? Like I'll tell people this story of, like, there's a guy, I'm in Atlanta, and there's a guy here that, like, I mean, his monthly listeners aren't crazy. He maybe does like 10,000 a month. But, like, he's one of the best performers I've ever seen. And, like, I've seen him pick up like 30, 40 new fans at shows. And it's like someone that's bigger than him but has a worse stage presence than him could learn from him, and could learn something from him. So, like, don't be like egotistical about like studying other artists and kind of like looking at their systems across everything and seeing what you can learn from that. So I put it all into like the same, like, educate yourself basket. Don't be afraid to delegate and give work to other people. Big thing I see with artists is like, you guys want to do it all. Which a lot of times I get it. It's more usually it's a money thing, which I do understand. But then I'll even see artists like progress to a certain point. It's like, yo, man, you're doing well and you're doing X, Y, Z, and like, why are you still doing everything yourself? Like, no business can sustain itself like that. It's like I look at our business. Like, if I was still having to be the one to do like the marketing campaigns and do the sales calls and do these interviews and whatever, like, I would have burnt out like a long time ago, right? Like you have to learn to delegate work. Because if not, then eventually you burn out and the whole ship crashes and burns, it's like the saying is like, you can go, what is it? Like, you can go fast alone, but you can go far with others or something like that. That really does like translate. But then you also get to like build on the expertise and experiences of other people when you delegate work to other people, So like, I've even had marketing campaigns with artists before, where the result wasn't even the value of the campaign for them, but just being able to watch us do what we do was valuable to them. Like, they were like, oh, okay, now I understand how you guys do certain things and blah, blah, blah. Like, that completely changed my perspective on how I view advertising or influence or whatever. So it's like, and the campaign could like bomb, but they were like, no, but I learned a lot. Like, this is great, right? So like, sometimes like delegating and just being able to like learn from other people's work or having people do that work for you, like, goes a very long way. And third thing, man, what would be the third thing? I think the third thing would be like, learn how to build up your consistency muscle, like, around like whatever is kind of your biggest pain point, right? So if like music creation is your biggest pain point, then what is your system gonna look like to get yourself more comfortable and consistent with creating music? If content is your biggest pain point, then what is gonna be your system to get yourself more comfortable with content creation and staying consistent there, right? If marketing is your biggest pain point, then how can you delegate or move certain funds around to be able to stay consistent on that side? But like, building up the consistency muscle overall is big, because a lot of the times the game is just consistency and volume, right? Like, who's putting out the most and who's doing it the most consistently. Because those people stay in front of you the most, and then eventually they win you over, right? Like, and even in music, I always tell people, like, having the ability for someone to say like, I've heard of you before, goes a very long way. Like, even if they don't like you, like, if someone's like, oh yeah, I don't listen to dude's music, but I heard him before, like, that goes a very long way. And so like, you can control that with consistency. Like, people like, oh yeah, I think I've heard dude before. Yeah, I think, oh yeah, I've seen his TikTok once. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I've heard dude before. And like, you can be completely, I'm sure you see it all the time with different music industry people, right? You're like, no, you don't really pay attention to this guy, but that person just got value built because you brought them up, and then like, they brought them up, right? So but a lot of times you can control that by just like staying in front of people consistently, just like staying in front of even a core group of people, like, consistently for a long period of time, and just like letting them live life, you know what I'm saying, talk about you and bring you up in conversations and stuff like that. So building the consistency muscle is probably the third tip I would give.
And that's like, a lot of that is brand awareness. People really sleep on the power of brand awareness. Like, just because someone's not streaming your music, but they know who you are, like you said, that is going to go a long way at some point, where it might not be this release that they like, but it's going to be the third or the fourth, because you're
Yep.
still in their face and you're still basically ingraining yourself in their memory and
Yep.
making your image more comfortable. And then it's weird. It really is human behavior how it happens, but absolutely. Oh, well, thank you so much. So my last question for you, and then I'm going to open it up to our members so they can talk to you, is, say I just released a single. What is a general marketing strategy you would have for me?
So, all right, well, we have to back it like this. So if you had just released something and we were trying to work, the first thing I would ask would be, what have you tried before? Right. So like, what are some things that you did in the past that you like the result of and would like to continue? And then what are some things you did in the past that you didn't like the result of and wish you could never have to never have to do again. Because then that gives me like a framework to like work off of, like, okay, this person had like a lot of successful ads, like we should over here, we should maybe start here. Like, oh, this person had this post go viral in like the anime community, maybe we should start figuring out ways to continue building them there. So usually we start with that. And then the second thing we always look at is like, what are your goals? So artists are like thumbprints, right? Like everybody's thumbprint looks kind of similar to, but like for the most part, they're all different, right? So it's like you may have a similar goal on the surface level, but then deep into it is like, it really is a completely different goal, right? Some artists want to be a vanity metric. Some artists are wanting to find their first fans. Like I said earlier, some artists just want to like learn from the process and just really there just to like learn and see like what it looks like. So then it becomes like, what is your goal? Like, what does the ideal short-term situation look like for you within a realistic manner? And then like, what is your goals over the next like 9 to 12 months look like within a realistic manner? Because then we can plan for the short term and we can also plan for it in a way that it impacts your long-term vision for yourself. Now, once we kind of got that out of the way, then we start like picking and placing like the different services that we think make the most sense based on like that conversation. So typically where we start people is on their content and developing their content strategy, just because I'm a big believer that like it is the foundation of a good marketing campaign because it provides the assets for all the other stuff. It's free, so you don't have to spend a lot of money doing certain things. And then it all like plays together. Like when you do all of it at the same time, you have a much bigger impact than when you're doing things like one at a time. You can still get impact, but you have a bigger impact when you're doing them all at the same time. So typically we start artists on their content strategy. For artists that already are comfortable with their content strategy or are already pretty good at it, then we start them out by helping them build out their advertising foundation. So pretty much picking a platform where they're the most consistent and the most active, and then helping them build ads that are targeted to places they actually care about and are converting well. So going back to the things I was saying earlier, this allows us to build data that can kind of help us like plan future portions of the campaign. We can learn, you know what I'm saying, whether or not this song or this asset is even worth you going to figure out how to get more money for it to continue pushing. And then we can scale it up or down pretty easily. So it's nothing for us to go like, hey, we spent $150 on this thing and it's going really well. Would you like to put more money into it? And you might go like, yeah, I just got like, I don't know, $800 like yesterday. I could put more into it, right? And then we can kind of scale it up a lot easier than the other stuff. And then once we get the advertising foundation built out, then we like to jump into we call them like viral campaigns, but they're really like a like influencer campaign. So either we're hiring like actual people influencers to do certain things, create content around your music, or we're placing your music in like influential spaces. So like think of like a meme account or like an account that posts like viral cat pages. Like these are spaces that like aren't manned by like a person, but they still have influence over a certain community, right? So now we're looking at your content, any UGC content or user generated content or like influencer created content, and figuring out like how we can put you in certain cultural spaces to like help you passively market yourself to people that might like your music or at least fit your ideal target demographic. So that's usually the process we will push somebody through from complete ground zero up. And then at like the highest level, we're doing all of it at the same time, right? Like we have influencers posting things in the background, we have your ads kind of running, and then you are sticking to some type of like content strategy on top of it. And like that is the most ideal marketing scenario that like 99% of artists could do. Because those are the things in music that aren't gatekept. Like no one can stop you from creating content. No one can stop you from running an ad. No one can stop you from hiring an influencer. If the influencer likes you and wants your money, they'll work with you. Like they don't care what any label has to say. Versus like most of the other things in music marketing at a high level are gatekeep. Like you have to go through a certain distributor or a label or a publishing company or something. So that becomes the best system that like you could truly grow off of and scale yourself off of, where you at absolute worst case scenario wouldn't really need anybody else. You wouldn't need those kind of like higher powers that be, in a sense. And then once you have that built and those people come along, it's like great, they can just amplify what you already kind of like built up. But that process is typically what we push people through. And like that process could be a month, that process could be 9 months, process could be 2 years. It generally does like vary from like artist to artist and situation to situation, but we always push people through that process, like the exact process.
Super informational. Thank you so much for answering my questions. I can't wait to make content out of this. We're gonna have like, I'm probably gonna send you over like 20 mini clips, just so you know.
Yeah,
But now I would love to open it up to our members. So if any of you have questions, go right ahead and speak up.
Yo, Kohrey, what's poppin', bro?
What's up, man?
Yo, so I actually just wanted to touch on one thing that you kind of said when you were actually, give me 1 second. 1 second, buddy. 1 second. So I kind of wanted to touch on something that you said when you were talking about, like, you're talking about delegating the work. And obviously, like, you know, I'm running a campaign with y'all right now. And the campaign is going smooth, like good cost per click and all that. But I think, like, the thing that I've really taken the most from it is kind of like the information. Like, as you see, bro, like, I be wherever you be at, bro, I be trying to, like, just tune in, bro, hear nuggets. Like, bro, I've been on like 4 or 5 year, like, talks or lives, bro. And like, and I think like working with other people and the way that you can kind of like learn from other people. I think that information is really the game when it comes to music. Like, the more you know, the easier you can kind of, the better decisions you can make and the easier you can kind of make your music journey. So
Yeah.
I really just wanted to say, like, that's huge for me. And then I had another question basically, or another question. So I'm running, I think I'm consistently on TikTok and IG the most. Those are my 2 platforms that I consistently be on. I post content every day. On TikTok, I feel like I don't get no love, but then I post the same thing on IG and I feel like I get way, way, way more love there. And like, I'm just trying to see, like, is there any like tips, like the difference, the way the algorithms look at it is like, cause I feel like it's kind of the same almost. So I don't really know why it's like such a huge discrepancy.
Yeah, so I will ask you this. All right, so you say you get more love on Instagram and TikTok. Which one do you feel like you get the most discovery from? Like,
I
which
don't
one
know.
people
I feel like consistently, like, I see more people, I see like consistently Instagram, but then like I have had like a couple viral videos where like TikTok just does what TikTok does and then just like goes crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like for me, TikTok's more like the lottery. Like, I win, I'm like, oh shit, word, I got this huge ass like dub and I got this huge amount of people that now know me. But then like IG's kind of like, okay, I'll post and like maybe like it won't go crazy viral, but it'll get like 10,000 views and like I'll get 3 new fans or 4 new fans or 5 new fans, as opposed to like going crazy viral on TikTok.
Yeah, I got you. So
Yeah.
So I would say this, man. I would say, one, I would say keep pressing the TikTok just because of like where it's kind of moving. And then just as you become bigger as an artist, like just having a platform on there would be a lot of leverage for you. You know, like that's the interesting thing about like music artists. Like, you don't have to have the most massive platform on there for you to be able to take advantage of certain opportunities once your music kind of catches a fan base, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes like a good look. But then also, so I look at like fan base building as kind of like you're trying to create like omnipresence to like a very small group of people, right? So omnipresence is basically just creating the feeling that you're everywhere to these people, right? So they log on to TikTok, they see you all over their For You page. They log on to Instagram, they see you on their reels, they see your stories. Maybe they're swiping through stories, they catch one of your ads. They log on to YouTube to watch some video, your YouTube ad pops up, and then they go on to Spotify to like listen to some songs and you're in their like release radar playlist, right? So now they're like, oh shit, like this dude's everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm seeing this guy like everywhere. So like creating content on the different platforms is the best way to do that, or the best free way to do that, because like you're creating multiple touch points with these different people, right? And so I would say like you want to think about discovery, of course, when it comes to the platforms, but as your base grows, you want to think more about like the impact it has on like them. You know what I'm saying? And so like you're not creating the TikToks all of the time necessarily to get new fans. Sometimes you're doing it just to engage the people that already like you.
Yep.
Already kind of like are like I've already decided like, they want to be your fan or like kind of be on this journey with you, right? So that's kind of the big. It's more of a mentality thing, right? I know it's easier said than done, kind of like talking yourself out of it, but that to me is the first way you have to look at it. It's like at least if you already have a fan base. If you didn't have any fans, then it would be the opposite. Like no, you need to be thinking about growth. You know what I'm saying? Like and kind of. But then the second thing I would say is just like experiment. You know what I'm saying? Like get yourself into the habit of experimenting, because a lot of times the answers or the results that we want is on the other side of something that you haven't tried yet, you know what I'm saying, or haven't like put into motion yet. And so it's another thing that's easier said than done, because there's usually the pain point of it not working. Or like, oh, this thing isn't doing as well as this thing I know works. Or, you know, I don't feel like people like it or XYZ, but like there's always something to be learned from that situation. And there's always the chance that you'll be wrong. And then going back to what I said earlier about TikTok is the best place to be wrong a lot because nobody cares after a really short period of time. Versus like if you're wrong a lot on Instagram, then you know that starts to have not only it impacts your core audience. Whereas like if you're wrong a lot on TikTok, it's people that didn't know about you anyway, going like, I don't really like this dude, right? So it's like you didn't really lose out too much, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
you feel.
I think it becomes more about like viewing the different platforms and how they fit into your entire ecosystem, right? Like how are you kind of using them both to create their omnipresence with the people that do like you, and then what are you trying to best like optimize your chance of like getting in front of new people, and then that honestly just becomes the game, you know, like that becomes appeal. Like even like with us personally, there'll be days where I notice, or there'll be months where I notice that I'm getting more traffic from TikTok. There'll be months where I know that I'm getting more traffic from YouTube. There'll be months where I know I'm getting more traffic from Instagram. But at the end of the day, I'm getting traffic from all three. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Month over. You know, so whether that I got 200 from TikTok this month and only 20 from Instagram, and the next month I got 10 from TikTok and I got 300 from Instagram, I still got whatever that, I don't feel like doing the math, but whatever the amount of people is that month because I was working all three of them, right? So it's kind of like looking at it that way, like how are they performing individually will let you know if you need to change your technique and things like that. But then you always want to look at how they're helping you aggregately, right? Like as a big picture type of thing. Does that make sense?
Nah, for sure, for sure.
Oh, thank you, Elos. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Of course, of course. Does anybody else have any questions?
I did have one. So if they're essentially, I'm just gonna put myself as an example, but if you've only created, let's just say like one single and put out one song, would you focus more on kind of my thought process in it is like promoting myself, yes, but when it comes to like them looking at me as an artist outside of that one song, I don't really have anything out yet. So would you like focus more on putting more out and then jumping to the content side, or would you kind of do like both at the same time?
Yeah, I would do both, because then the process of you making your new music can become content. And like there are people who like that type of stuff, right? And who are like just are interested in like if you could go back in time and watch whoever your favorite artist is now, like figure that whole process out, like you would probably do it, you know what I'm saying? Like and watch that. So like there are a lot of people who are really interested in that type of stuff. And then it gives you the ability to kind of like practice and build a muscle before you get to that song that you want to do it with. So then you're not trying to figure it out in the process or I guess figure it out when you feel like you have that thing, you know, because like the same skills you're going to use to market and promote a song that people don't like are going to be the same skills you use to market and promote a song that you do think people like, right? So I always look at it like this: as long as the song is like a quality made song, right? Like it doesn't sound like you like made it in like a trash can or something, you know what I'm saying? Like people can listen to it. And I say put it out there and push it, because at the end of the day, like somebody's gonna like it, and then you're gonna learn something from the process. If the songs you're making are not quality yet, then like focus on the music quality first, right? Because that's gonna be pretty much like their first your first like active representation to them, right? This is what they're gonna judge you off of. So, but yeah, if you listen to the song, you're like, oh, this is a good song, it sounds really good, it's mixed well, it's XYZ, then yeah, put it out there. Like I said, somebody's gonna like it, somebody's gonna watch that whole process and be down to like watch you go through that process. And then the skills transfer. Like you're gonna be using the same skills 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. So you might as well start figuring it out today, you know.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And you do got a song that you can promote, by the way, because I'll be listening to it. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I can shoot a quick question. What's going on, man? My name is Zavi out of Orlando, rapper, songwriter, and I have an EP coming up, right? My question really is, how would you differ promotion and rollout for a single versus an EP?
Honestly, it is the exact same from like a technical level, like in terms of like services and things being done. Typically, the way we like to push EPs is like focusing on singles first, and then remarketing the EP to all the people that we push to the singles, right? So like, let's say you have 3 songs you're building out or you want to promote, and then you let's say 1 a month for the next 3 months, and then you're dropping an EP on the 4th month. So it's like month 1, we're marketing the single, we're building up an audience. Month 2, we're marketing the second single, building up an audience for that. Month 3, we're marketing the 3rd single, building up an audience for that. And then month 4, we're marketing the EP to all 3 audiences that we built up from those singles, washing through that as much as we possibly can. going back and then seeing which song or single is now performing the best, and then using that as the new single to draw attention back to the EP. So that could be one of the 3 singles that you push. That could be one of the new songs on the EP, right? But at that point, you've at least given it the best chance for you to be able to organically watch that and see. And then like from that point, it's like you decide what song you want to be the kind of lead for, and then everything else ends up being exactly the same.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. But I'm just, even speaking on that, like I'm big on doing singles first. Because the example I always give is like if a stranger knocked on your door right now, and there's a random man at your door, and you open it up, and he's like, "Yo, like, could you read this book right now?" Like, you wouldn't do it. But if that same strange man knocked on your door, was like, "Yo, like, check out this paragraph of my book real quick," like, you might give it a chance. You know what I'm saying? You might be like, "You know what, man? I don't know you. I don't know who you are, but like, maybe I'll check it out." It's the exact same thing with music. Like, we are way more likely to fall in love with a single or give you a chance because of a single than we are because of an EP. Everybody feels like their time is important. We all protect our times, I'm assuming, you know what I'm saying? And you know, and like we don't want to give it up for something that we don't feel like is like worth it, right? So singles become the way that you chip away at people's distrust of your catalog, you know? So, and like she was saying earlier, like there's gonna be some people that you convert off of the single that you're promoting, and they go listen to it and like you and check you out. And there's gonna be some people that go like, "Hey, I hate this," but those people know who you are now. You know what I'm saying? And those people might come back on single 3 and be like, "Dang, I hated single 1, I hated single 2, but yo, he got something with his 3rd single, right?" And so you were just slowly chipping away at like the armor they had against, you know what I'm saying, your music. Because we as music consumers, we come across a lot, you know what I'm saying? So it's like we naturally put up an armor against like new music. You know, you're kind of like a new song. Like, I don't know, man. I just got pushed like 20 new songs like today. But over time, the people that get through are the people you see consistently. And you've heard a couple of different things from it, and you kind of you see them out and about in certain ways. So singles give you the ability to control that and to extend your marketing strategy longer than the EP will. Because, you know, it's like you assume that like everything you put out, let's say, has like a 2 to 3 month window if it's not performing well. That means with a single plus an EP release, you technically have a year that you could be promoting all of that. You know what I'm saying? Because each single could be 2-3 months, and then you spend another 2-3 months marketing the EP, and you the whole year marketing, right? Versus if you just drop the EP, you got 2 or 3 months, and then if it's working, maybe you keep pushing, but if it's not, like you burnt the window out. You know what I'm saying?
So, anybody else have any questions? Probably going to be the last one as we're slowly approaching 7. If not, I do have a question. So with digital ads, I think traditionally people will just take clips of their music video and then run those ads. Is that still effective? Or are we seeing the more influencer marketing be way more effective?
Yeah, so it depends on the platform. Like something like an Instagram or Facebook, you could get away with that. It works well. YouTube, it works well because YouTube typically using like the whole video or something anyway, as the content. TikTok is the only place where it's kind of like 50-50, like, or I wouldn't say 50, like 30-70. Like it might work, but it probably won't work. You know, TikTok ads tend to work a lot better with like actual TikToks, like posts that look like TikToks. So it's a lot more believable. Because like if you're scrolling on TikTok all day and like you see this post of this guy made on the iPhone 10, and then this post of the guy made on the iPhone 8, and this post of this girl made on her iPhone 13, and you see this 5K HD video pop up out of nowhere, like you're immediately suspicious of it. You're like, you know what I'm saying? This isn't what I'm used to seeing over here. So over there it has about like a 30-70 chance of like working. Influencer market. So I always look at this, like everything in marketing has its pros and cons. It just becomes about like what pro and what con matter the most to you in the moment, right? So like I said, with influencers and influencer marketing campaign, the potential for a viral moment is much higher. Like there's a chance that you pay an influencer to do something and the post will spark up in a way that like you may not be able to do that with ads. But there's also a chance that post bombs and you're out of money that could have been more effectively spent on advertising, right? So it's like if you're in a gambling mood and you have budget to spare, if it doesn't work, then I love influencer campaigns because of that. Like, but it's like if you don't, then you may need to go with the safer route unless you are 100% okay with the fact that you could spend this money and absolutely nothing happen. You know what I'm saying? If you're okay with that, go for it. If you're not okay with that, stick to the safe route of advertising, you know? So, but they all have their pros and their cons, right? So I just look at like ads are the most controllable and scalable thing that you can do in marketing. Like I was saying earlier, like it's easy to go like, hey, this thing is working at $5 a day, so I could calculate what it might do at 50 a day or 100 a day or whatever, and then make that move and shake. But people are generally distrusting of ads, so it's not the greatest. It's not the greatest like trust builder, initially. Content tends to be the greatest trust builder, but it's a lot slower because you have to figure out algorithms. You have to find your own voice, right? Things like that. But then it's also free. So it's like, you have a lot more leeway to do it because you're not spending money to figure those things out. And then influencers are, in my opinion, like cultural ambassadors. So there isn't a community or a niche that you're going to be able to get in front of without having to go through the influencers that speak to that community in one way, shape, or another. So like a lot of times they're able to help build trust a lot faster in specific demographics because that demographic already trusts them. So it's like, oh, this person said this is cool, so I'm at least go check it out, right? But then they're volatile. They're like lottery tickets, just because they also are at the mercy of algorithms and did they have a good content idea and things like that. So they're playing the same game you're playing to a degree, just with more people like watching them. So pros and cons of each. That's why I said like in the perfect world, you do all three, right? You have all of them shooting out because they're covering each other's like holes. But then short term, or you're kind of looking at your budget, you look at the pros and cons of each and just do the one that makes the most sense for like what your situation calls for.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, we got 3 minutes left. So if nobody has any more questions, I would love if everybody could go put their handles in the group chat so we can all follow each other, get a good sense of community going. I put both of our handles already, so you're good. Any last thoughts? Anyone? All right. Well, hey, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. I appreciate you jumping on here and talking to us. Super insightful, super informational, as I knew it would be. So thank you so much. I'll give it a couple more minutes so people can kind of like go through the chat and follow one another. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you. And just like anybody that wants to like tap in, well, yeah, she dropped my Instagram. Kohrey Savior, same thing on TikTok. Check out our YouTube channel, Brandman Network, if you looking to get a little bit more into like the nitty gritty of things. And then if you ever feel like we can help you with a marketing campaign or you just want to have a conversation with somebody on the team about that, the website is Contraband Agency, actually I'll drop it, but CONTRABRAND.agency. You can see case studies. There's an application on there. You can go through the whole nines on there, and somebody will talk to you, let you know what's up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, I will see you all soon. And just for the members who are here, don't forget, we also have live events inside the club, songwriting sessions and music review sessions hosted by our man Zavi on the screen. So if you guys are ever looking for that, you can always come here for those things as well. So thank you everyone for your time, and I'll see you guys at the next one.
All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all for having me, man. Y'all enjoy y'all days and be safe.
All right.